impossible to actually play because it was so strange. And in general, I'll say I love trying to interpret grooves that have been written by non-drummers, because the last thing on their mind is, how many arms does this person have? So there were lots of situations. One song in particular, Girl Loves Me, had 2 loops just right on top of each other. And we didn't talk too much before each take, and I was maybe assuming that I would go back and put another layer on top, but I tried to play as much as I could in one pass, and that's what is on the record.
Did you do overdubs and multiple?
No, that was just what I could make of the demo. And in general, all the songs are takes, which is sadly not so common anymore in popular music recording. But the goal was we were all in the same room, and David is singing not in a booth. You know, the drums are here and he's maybe where the speaker is. So when he's singing, it's getting into all the mics and everything. And we would do a song, you know, we would do a couple takes until we were happy with the drums and the bass. And then we'd say, okay, that's the take. And then the overdubs, the keyboard overdubs or woodwind overdubs would begin. So there were some days where we would get it in the first take, and Tim, the bass player, he and I were done, and we're just on the couch with David for the next 6 hours while everybody else is working, you know. So it was a very special experience, and yeah, I don't think we could have gotten those performances without truly being in the same room and playing all together.
Does that make a big difference? Well, I guess you already said it.
It does, yeah.
Playing in the same room, how does the miking work and that, all of that?
Yeah, so really, the bass was going through an amp which was in a different room, you know, so that was protected. And the keys were going somewhere else. Donnie was the only one in a booth. We could still see him, but just to isolate him. This was in the Magic Shop, a really small studio in Lower Manhattan. The live room was maybe the size of 2 of these stages, so very close. And so the only thing really being recorded by microphones were the drums in the live room and David's vocal mic. And this is a little embarrassing story, but I'm happy to share. During the first day, I wanted to hear more of his voice in my headphones, so I turned his microphone up, but then the drums got louder because we're all in the same room and we're pretty close. So we were working with Tony Visconti, who was producing the record, who worked with David all through the years. And, after the first take, everyone's happy and go into the control room. And I was kind of the young guy in the room, and I was like, hey, Tony, excuse me. It sounds like my drums are really getting into David's vocal mic. And he said, isn't that great? And I said, okay, I get it. But I feel so lucky to have been a part of the recording, but especially to have been a part of it in that way, because less and less records get made that way. And, I even had some friends who, when the record came out, they said, wow, you're on a David Bowie record. Did you meet him? Which, it sounds silly, but unfortunately it's a question that I have plenty of friends who have recorded with artists and they were never in the same room. So it's a little bit of the music business nowadays, it's not a silly question, but I feel so lucky that he was there every minute, long days and spend time together. I think all of the non-playing time spent together makes its way into the playing, for sure. So that fellowship and friendship and just being silly, you know, that absolutely shapes the music too.
I think you can really hear the deepness of, and the friendship and fellowship in the music in that record.
Cool,
It's,
thank you.
Seriously deep.
Thank you. Thanks for checking it out, yeah. Anybody else? Yes.
Yeah, it's maybe a little bit of a basic question, but how did your path and Davy's path cross? Like, how did you guys meet and decided that you would work together for the Black Star?
I met David through a woman named Maria Schneider, who's an amazing composer and arranger in New York. Do you know her by name? No? Yeah, so she's David was a fan of hers and wanted to collaborate with her. So he was working on this song with her and wanted to record it with her band, like a big band, jazz big band kind of. So, and Maria asked me to be a part of that. So we recorded one song the year before we were doing Black Star. It's called Sue, which is also on Black Star, but it's a different version where it's David with this big band. So if you look that up, that's the initial collaboration. And then that led to, he wanted to make more and he just started sending us music and that led to Black Star. Yeah. I still remember the voicemail from Maria. She's like, "Hey Mark, it's Maria. So I'm working on the song with David Bowie and just wanted to know if you want to play on it. You know, just call me back." I'm like, sure. Yeah. Anybody else?
Yeah, I saw the show with St. Vincent in Antwerp, which was great.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks a lot. And how creative can you be working with her? Is it the same kind of way of working? Is it together in one spot? Or is she coming up with a lot of stuff? How was, especially like the last record, which also Dave Grohl is on?
Yes.
How did that work? Because I saw she comes up with a lot of stuff too, but is it also a creative process for you?
Yeah, good question. We can repeat the question. So I've been playing with this artist named St. Vincent. Do you guys know St. Vincent? She's an amazing musician, artist, and we've been touring a lot in the last 4 years already. And the majority of the music we've played together had already been recorded, so it's less creative in the obvious sense of where I just have to learn the music and you know, honor the parts that have been written. I'll say she's always very open to my approach, or I'm in no rush to change anything in that kind of situation. My singular goal is to support her and support the music, and I never come into a situation assuming that my ideas are going to be better. So I wait to be invited to offer some new ideas or changes, which with Annie it happened very quickly and was very intuitive. Working on the last record, some of the music I played on was almost unfinished at the time, so she was really, it was an invitation to experiment and try things. And you mentioned Dave Grohl, so there's a song, a St. Vincent song called Broken Man, which I played on, and then, you know, I didn't hear any of the versions since I had played on it, and then it came out. It was the first single, and she was like, "Hey, Broken Man's coming out, you're on it." I'm like, "Oh, cool." And then I'm listening, and like the last minute of the song, I'm like, "What is, this is not me. This is not me." And I texted the engineer, I was like, "Are you sure this is me?" He's like, "Oh yeah, Grohl comes in the last minute." And I was like, okay, so I got replaced for 1 minute by Dave Grohl at the end.
Yeah, so,
Which, he's one of the reasons I started playing drums in the first place, so that was a very
I was kind of curious
cool
about
moment.
that song. Yeah.
Yeah, so
So yeah.
Annie was just, she's always refining, and she was recording Dave on a different song, and then I think in the moment she was just wishing for one extra level. So yeah, he jumps in towards the end. But yeah, she's a dream collaborator, and again, every night I am just trying to support her the best I can, and but there's always spontaneous room to look around, you know. Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
I noticed you sometimes play holding the sticks like more in the middle or back to the end. Is it like a sound choice or just a balance choice or something to get more creative with?
Yeah, I think all of the above. But I'm so glad you said sound, because I never heard. I'm so lucky to have had a great first teacher named Joe Bergamini that taught me how to hold the stick really the right way. And I always have that. That's ingrained in me as something to return to. But I found that when I was younger, I used to think about technique first, and then whatever sound I was getting from the technique, it was happenstance, you know. So as I started to look for new sounds or wish for different sounds, I realized this technique can only give me one sound. So that's when I started to try to flip it in my mind of sound dictates technique. So yeah, sometimes I'll be up here. I think the most important thing, sound dictates technique, and then with a star that says, please don't hurt yourself, which is real. I hope to play drums for the rest of my life, but I can be doing things now that might not let me do that. So it's always in the back of my mind, and I found that, you know, proper technique often encourages rebound and letting the stick do the work, but sometimes that sound isn't what I'm wishing for, so I'll try to play as quiet as I can in a relaxed way. So it's about there. I'm starting to lose control, but there are moments where I might want that, you know. So if I'm playing that quiet, this won't do any harm for short periods of time. So I'm happy to do that, and then when I need to, I'm back here. So it's mostly to eliminate rebound, actually. Because if you hold the stick tight back here, that can cause more stress than up here. And because you're listening so carefully, we can enjoy this beautiful cymbal at this volume. You know, these things are expensive. You got to get your money's worth. Like these, I might as well hit the bottom one too. Please raise your hand if you've hit your bottom hi-hat in the last week. Yes, wow, good. Impressive. Cool.
But like, I did it with my knee, not with my stick.
What's that? By accident?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry, but you and then.
Thank you. You just told us two really beautiful stories with two different drum sets, and as you also said, you're really being in the moment when you do that, and you really interact with the atmosphere and everything. Of course, probably it happened, but it's maybe a classic question. What happens when you disconnect all of a sudden and you need to come back? And do you have any maybe suggestions that can help, you know, with those kind of moments? Because sometimes it happens. Thank you.
Oh yes.
Yeah.
They happen all the time, actually. And I think the most important thing is, instead of wishing for those moments not to happen, it's to relax into them and learn how to get back to that nice space, right? So I think I think that's where our practicing comes in, and I know that if I really get stuck emotionally, physically, whatever it might be, and I really don't know where to go intuitively, I'll say, okay, I don't really want to, but I'll reach for this thing that I know works because I've worked on it so much, and it might be a certain pattern between the hands and the feet, right? Something simple like, and ideally you want to just camouflage it too. I don't want you to know that I'm stuck, you know? So I'm just being, I feel good and I'm intuitive, and something happens and I'm like, I don't know where to go. Okay, I'm gonna play right, left, kick. I've worked on that. I feel like that'll be there for me. So realize I still haven't hit these cymbals, by the way, except for this one. So I want to save that. I don't know where to go. And I can almost go on autopilot until I can collect myself and maybe decide where to go. Also, I almost always, I'm trying to think, I don't want to think too specifically about what I'm playing, I'm trying to think big picture. So I oftentimes have a form in mind. And I like to know if I need something in an uncomfortable moment, I know what that thing will be. So for example, when I sat down, I had two things in mind. I thought snares off and no cymbals. And I knew that I'm just going to go and go and go and see how long I can go. Eventually I felt like, okay, I need to introduce one of those. So I turned the snares on and then I felt refreshed. I was like, oh, starting from 0 now. And that might have been 10 minutes in or something. And I still haven't gotten to the cymbals, which is exciting. On a good night, I still have these big picture ideas waiting for me, you know. So I think maybe there's some technical things that you can really trust, that you reach for, and also if you're saving certain sounds or the brushes could have been a good example of, oh, let me, just like a scene change. But it's difficult to get stuck and then have to figure out where to go. So if you gently have the next move in mind, once you're stuck, you go. Yeah.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you. I was wondering, the improvisational approach to the drums that you described after playing the first piece, how do you incorporate that in a practical way into your practice routine? And maybe also into composition at large?
Good question. So this is how to apply improvising into a practice routine and composition. I mean, you could say by definition that improvising is composition in real time. And then a more traditional form of composition is just slow motion improvisation, you know? So the more similar those can feel in your mind, I think hopefully the more comfortable you are. But oftentimes I'm relying on very traditional musical tools like theme and variation, which I can demonstrate, and also song form. So in that first solo, if we could rewind and listen back, maybe we could very loosely say that if the first section is A, maybe the brushes were a B. And then I turned the snares on from there and introduced the hi-hat. That could be a C, but I knew I wanted to return to the original statement. So I always had that A in mind, and that could be a traditional song form. Yeah, verse, chorus, bridge, verse, or something.